wow, what a ride. This has been 4 years to get to this point. It's been a lot of ups and downs, twists and turns, but it's been incredibly, incredibly fulfilling to get to this point. I had a person who was going to play Superman, and they dropped. And then another person who was going to play Superman, and they dropped. And so I asked Daniel, I was like, can you be Superman? He goes, sure. So with 24 hours notice, he was Superman.
And it was interesting trying to do that. Not so much the notice, but just I hadn't sat with the character and I didn't know the story or the background. It was just here, do this character. And so that was an interesting experience, but hopefully it comes across well.
And it was just cool seeing the three of them together, because you got to remember, we're in the middle of a pandemic as we're shooting this. So the theater actors that they haven't had a chance to really act in anything. Really, no one had a chance to act in anything this entire production.
It was great to be back. I haven't done a whole lot of film prior to this, a little bit here and there. And so the aspect of not acting in a while due to the pandemic, combined with doing film, which I hadn't done a whole lot anyway, was different, but it was a lot of fun.
How much did they see?
Enough.
Working with Will, I was actually really excited when I found out he was coming on board, because I have done theater stuff with him, I've directed him, but I hadn't actually worked opposite him. And knowing how talented he is and how unique he plays characters, I was like, oh boy, I get to challenge myself.
She's a good director and knows how to pull things out of people. This is the first time that I've been on screen or shared a scene with her, and kind of put myself to the test against her, because I knew what she could draw out of people. And I think she drew, like I said, Mercy, it's who I'd want to be too, because I love the character. She drew the aggravation out of me even further.
I had to be super cold and super in charge to the sweetest guy ever. And so off screen, there was a lot of laughs. And there's a lot of, I know there was one night, he just was in my face and he was making all these faces at me, and I've got to be all like, whoa, and I couldn't. I think we took about 8 takes because I just could not keep a straight face. But working with Will was amazing.
Will shaved his beard for the scene where he had to be the young version of Joel Kent. That was the last scene that he did. And he was doing the scene in 2023, the flashback scene in 2023 first, and then we did the scene where he shaved, after all that. The museum scene was stressful for me. The original plan was to shoot that scene at a comic book store in the mall. We had to think on the fly, and Jeffrey came up with this really brilliant idea.
Michael and I have so much superhero memorabilia between the two of us and our father. Michael and I looked at what they had in the comic book store and realized we could do that. We have all the stuff, we have all the t-shirts, we have a bunch of comics. We could make it look like the comic book store.
We were at Tubbs, day of, and we were just decorating it, and we had all our friends helping us, and we put stuff up. I honestly thought that first scene in the museum was one of our best sets, just with us all being, like I said before, like fans of the DC brand. We all just had a lot of DC merch, so we just brought in everything we could to make it seem like a genuine superhero gift shop / museum.
Watching the episode and the rough cuts, I think it definitely looks like it could be a real comic shop. I think it's really cool, all of the costumes hanging in the back and the tables full of comics. I thought it looked really, really good.
Decked out in all of the superhero stuff. And for the beginning of the scene, I'm basically just messing around with all my friends who, over the course of this project, I've gotten a lot closer to and have a lot more chemistry with on screen, which is good since we filmed this very late into the production process, which is funny since it was, the first episode.
I'm so glad Andrew kept this. It was when I took the hat off and I threw it at the mannequin, and it hit the mannequin head over, and it made it into the final cut. And I am so glad it did, because I love that.
There's a whole rack of clothing. My favorite one is the shirt that says Bazinga. That was a fun shirt that that was the one that I'm like trying on in the mirror scene.
So me, Nicole, is already an awkward person, and then you throw Rachel in there, and she is written to be especially awkward, especially around Bart. And it gets really tricky because like the script wrote it so that way when Bart first crept up on me and I was like, hey there, and he's like, what are you talking about? I'm supposed to like say an awkward line, but I couldn't even get that right. That's how awkward and clumsy I am in general. So it was fun being able to see that play out in the scene itself. But on top of that, just Bart playing off of Kim is so funny to watch, because as soon as she walks onto the scene, everyone goes silent. Like, I take a step back because I'm scared of her.
I kind of was just like, don't come near her. So yeah, it was definitely like Bella move that she just kind of like came out and was like, don't touch my friend.
Even Bart himself, the boyfriend, in his face immediately is like, oh, she's impeding on our friend time.
Welcome to the Metropolis Portal Transit Center. Swipe your portal pass on the pad.
The shot of me going through the portal was shot 3 weeks before the episodes were released. The portal scene over at Lake Forest, we were incredibly blessed by the Bergs, who graciously opened up not just their home to film in a couple of episodes, but the fact that Michael said, I would love for you to, use the office if you want, and we will get all of your cast members up there, and we will get a hotel for you guys to stay up there for the whole weekend. It was incredibly generous, incredibly kind. That weekend was a lot of fun because they were filming and they were having a good time, and when they're not filming, they're back at the hotel. I don't know if someone hit the pool or not, but having pizza and playing video games till all hours of the night. I think and for it to be happening 6 months into a pandemic, I think everyone really enjoyed that night, and that made some special memories for the cast. So that was the one thing I take away from Lake Forest more than anything else.
I'll call you back.
What floor?
Top.
The elevator scene. I think this is the only time that I interacted with Jeffrey. And Jeffrey and I have a long history.
The elevator scene was quite an experience, I have to say.
To be able to work with him was amazing, and we were in this tiny little elevator, and I feel sorry for Jordan, who was just in the middle because I know the tensions in there were just getting super high.
I really liked the claustrophobic feeling of that scene because we're so close to Mercy, and I thought Jeffrey and Kristen did a really good job in that scene.
I feel like I got a lot of my best acting in the elevator. We were having a lot of looks, and it was all about the silence between our lines. And on the other side of that scene was how cramped it was to fit 4 people and a camera and still have it look good in the camera.
I'm standing where the elevator door is supposed to be closing.
This poor elevator, the door would open, the door would close, and we're like, nope, stay here. And the elevator's like, I don't know what I'm doing. That was a lot of fun.
Yes.
Filming the scene with Will and Jordan in Lake Forest was eye-opening because it allowed me to become like a father figure for Clark, but I really tried to approach it as how a teacher, how an adult would go about navigating this relationship, this very, very ugly looking relationship between a father and a son.
Working away, being ambitious, and my dirt son comes in and has forgotten his past yet again.
All my scenes with Will are always good, but particularly that one, because Will's such a nice guy in real life, but he's so mean as Joel, and that was a little bit hard for us both to get through with because we had to be just so tense between us the whole time, and I thought Will was doing a great job just being a total jerk.
I just put on my best. My own kid has just done something that I've reminded him not to do over and over again. I just put on that face and just kind of breathed heavily and knew the role. It was really easy for me to film this role, surprisingly. and it was just hot, which made it even better because that was without anybody having to do anything. That was already an irritating position to be in, it being as hot. And I just remember all the cool lights around me, making me look pretty evil.
The whole idea is you're supposed to feel sorry for Clark after that whole talk with his dad, and I hope the audience feels that. Then we get to Bart's house.
The Flash, all of them, you know, have that intense caloric intake that they need to burn off. So we wanted to bring that into the story at least a little bit without explaining it too much. So we were like, hey, let's have him chug straight out of the milk thing. I said that when we were writing the script, but I really wanted to see how much I could drink, because I know it's just like, it's ridiculous, but I wanted to see how far I could go.
I don't know many people who've chugged a gallon of milk, because every time I see someone try to do it on YouTube, they usually throw up, and that's something I did not want to have happen. You know, because we weren't filming at his house, we were filming at someone else's house. And so he's like, let me just chug as much as I can. And I said, okay, let's get all of the stuff that I want to get done first, then we'll do this shot. If it works, you get one take at it. One.
So that was way too much freedom, and he probably shouldn't have given it to me, but I loved it. So I think I was chugging milk for like 11 seconds straight, and we were wearing these microphones so you can hear every gulp in like perfect audio. So it was amazing.
Some of our test audience was like, ooh, he's chugging milk for 11 seconds. I know. He wanted to do it. He did it, and I'm like, okay, you know, I'm fine with it because that's part of his character and it lets him be him, so I was all right with it.
Right at the end, you know, I'm running around, and
Yes.
that's the first time I used my super speed and stuff. And I really wanted to have the papers flying around. Could you see that? And that really sells the effect, I think. So do you remember this? We were totally trying to throw papers and time it right, and we just never could. And like sometimes it would just come all down at once.
Yeah.
So that was a really hard one to get, and I think it looked pretty good in the end.
I think episode 1 does a really good job of building the characters and introducing everyone at play. That was really difficult because originally the script for that episode was 21 pages long. And if you guys are new to the industry, a page of script is usually a minute of film. So the fact that it was 21 pages, that was the final length of the script, 21 pages. I was like, oh man, this is gonna be a long episode 1, and it only ended up being like 12 minutes. So that's rare, and it's great, and I love it. But I think episode 1 did a really good job of establishing the characters and who they are, and you know, just telling you who we're rooting for and who we're rooting against. That was really the goal of episode 1, is just to get that feel, get the audience locked in on that particular thing.